So, welcome everyone to this podcast. We have today with us David Stebbing, and who has kindly agreed to come and speak with us today. So, David Stebbing is a consulting actuary. He's a senior director at Willis Towers Watson. At Willis Towers Watson, he helps corporate clients with their pricing, risk financing strategies, insurance strategies. He also leads the Solvency II pillar at Willis Towers Watson. Prior to that, he worked with Lloyd's Banking Group, where he did a lot of pensions risk management. Very happy to have you here, and thank you so much for giving us your time.
And I'm honoured to be invited. Real privilege to be here. Thank you, Darshika. So I've been consulting or working as an actuary for coming up to 22 years, which I tell you has gone by in the blink of an eye. I actually started my career as a pensions actuary. I think you covered the Lloyd's bit at the end. So for the first 8 years, that's how I qualified. First 2 years of my career, I was working for Mercer as a pensions actuary, 2.5 years. I then relocated to London to work for Towers Perrin, which now became Towers Watson and is now, of course, well, not just Willis Towers Watson, but WTW. You need to get that right. 4 years there, that's where I qualified, and then I moved to Lloyd's Banking Group, which was an internal actuarial role in the Treasury Group. After a couple of years of that, I fancied a change. Thought I'm going to move away from pensions here. Took a career break, took a backpack and travel around the world for a little bit while I thought about what to do. I wanted to move into general insurance and risk, and I was fortunate enough to land the job at Willis in 2011. So that's coming up to 13 years now. I thought I'd try it for a couple of years, and 13 years later, here I am. Willis, of course, became Willis Towers Watson, which for me was a merger that was very close to my heart because I have fond memories of Towers Watson. And that's where I've been ever since, and here I am today.
Yeah, that sounds like such an exciting journey, and we are going to unpack a lot of that in more detail as we go through. But before we get into that, I want to get into a little bit about your interest in actuarial science. Do you know, how did you decide that, okay, this is the path that I want to go to? And I'm sure there weren't many people even in the UK who were pursuing this profession. So how did you come across this?
So it started well before university.
Oh, really?
So when I was 15 or 16, as in my GCSE year, we were doing work experience. And the school arranged it for us. I don't know how they did it, but they said, what do you want to do for a week's work experience? And I just said, something to do with maths. Because I was always about maths. That was always my favourite subject. Something to do with maths, and then they arranged for me a week's work experience at Mercer in Liverpool in the actuarial team, and that was when I was, like I say, about to turn 16. And then when I was at university, I was looking for a couple of summer jobs, so I ended up doing a couple of summer internships at Mercer in Liverpool. So I got to know the guys there pretty well, and I was offered a job on the grad scheme. I assume there'll be pensions actuaries listening to this, so we were doing transfer value calculations. And I mean, I'm going back to 1998, 1999, so there's a lot of handwritten calculations, which I know you'll find hard to believe. But I was offered a job at the end of my degree, a graduate role, which I accepted. And that's where people ask me about this, and I said, well, I did maths at university at Warwick. And typically, the people on the maths course went on to do one of 5 things. I would say this: they either became an academic, did a PhD. I thought, not for me. I've had enough. They go and be a maths teacher, and I was again, not for me. Don't want to deal with young people. They become they become an investment banker, which I didn't fancy. They become an accountant, which I just thought sounds a bit dry. So actuarial. No offense to accountants. They say the same about actuaries. And I'd already tasted actuarial work, so it was for me. It was a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm. Sounds very interesting, actually. We always talk about actuarial science and maths.
Yeah.
If you're interested in maths, go for actuarial science. Is that really the case in the actual world? Is there a corollary to that it's not just about mathematics and statistics, it's beyond that? So what's your take on that?
The prerequisite when I started was you needed a sort of a maths-based degree. So there were a few physics backgrounds, economics, but generally it was a very mathematical background. That said, I mean, I think some of the better actuaries that I know actually arguably come from a more rounded background.
Yeah.
Especially in the line of work that I'm in, and I know we'll move on to this. What I do at WTW is very sort of atypical actuarial role, as you know, you did it. So no, I think there's definitely scope for. I think you need to be mathematically inclined.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of scope for much broader backgrounds. What separates actuaries from data scientists and pure mathematicians is that ability to translate it into real world. Thinking about the economics, thinking about the impact on clients, and don't just be numbers people.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree. I think most actuaries now are going beyond just numbers and Excel sheets and really thinking about the impact that those numbers are making, and completely agree, it's more rounded now.
Yeah.
We all know how tough it is to clear the papers. I mean, honestly, if you're interested in the subject, you will find your interest and you'll stay focused and consistent, because it is a long journey. As you'll agree that it's a lot of papers, you have to stay consistent along with your job as well. So what was your journey like? Did you face any failures? Because being in the actuarial space, I know if you don't clear a paper, it can be really disheartening.
Yeah.
And you feel like, am I really made for this? I've not cleared a paper in a year. How am I going to do 15? Have you felt like that ever in the journey?
Yeah, yes. Everyone's felt like that.
Yeah.
Everyone's. So I was quite, I passed the exams in 4 years.
That's amazing.
It's not too bad. I mean, I've seen some people doing it in 2.5 years, but I'm like, no.
2.5 years?
That's what I've said, with 0 exemptions. I'm like, you need a life. I never sat any more than 3
It
in
definitely, 2.5 years, I'm sure there's no life.
You're just locking yourself away. So for me, it was 4 years. I didn't have any exemptions. I didn't even realise it was a thing. And also, when I was at university, to be honest, I didn't like stats.
You didn't like it?
No, it wasn't. For me, I was a pure mathematician. Galois, people, Galois theory and ring theory and all this stuff. I absolutely used to love that stuff, and I didn't like stats. For me, it wasn't. At the time, I thought it wasn't real maths. Whereas now, I actually really like it, obviously. So I came out with no exemptions, no helpful modules that would have helped. I flew through the early exams. The syllabus has changed, so don't ask me to name names, name exams anymore. I flew through the early exams, all these sort of the CTs, if you want to talk about that. And then as soon as we got onto the wordier exams, I sat the first ever CA1. What's that called these days?
CP1.
There you go. But just before that, yes, I've got through the first session, first set of exams. Then the first attempt at the wordy exams, I failed both of them. And that was a real, like you said, like, oh my, wow, what am I, is this the career for me? Yeah. Especially, a lot of people coming into this career, they are high performing.
Yeah.
Never failed an exam before. And I think that is a shock to the system. If you've never failed an exam before, it's an awful feeling. Yeah. So yes, I questioned it. Should I sat down with my study, support or study champion that we had at the time, and I said, I'm not sure. Maybe I need to do something else. And they kind of said, are you crazy? The kind of thing I would say to someone, right now, they're like, are you crazy? Come on, you failed it.
You just sail through it.
Just work on your technique. Which would be the advice I'd give on the later exams. You don't need to write too much and all of this stuff. So I sort of redoubled and worked on my technique, and then I managed not to fail anymore, and that was that. But that was it was exactly halfway through the exams. That was a real moment of self-doubt, and I see it from people, and the best I can do is just say that we've all been there.
Yeah,
we've all been there, and it is a shock if you fail an exam, but don't let it get to you, and just work on your technique.
Absolutely agree. I think I've had that feeling as well, where I've given my 100%. And, I think if you've not given your 100% and you don't get the result, you still tell yourself that it's okay, maybe I didn't study hard enough. But when you study hard enough and still don't get it, it can be really daunting. But I think, like you said, you mentioned something really important is having mentorship, who can help you with technique, what you're going wrong with. And now IFOA also provides a lot of support in terms of where you went wrong. So let's transition into your professional career now. Something really interesting that you mentioned is the handwritten stuff that you did with pensions.
Yeah.
Do you want to shed a little more light on that? Would you not use Excel at all, and you would do all the calculations by yourself and use the orange book, I assume?
The orange, the mortality tables,
Yes.
and all of that. So we had. It's not like we didn't have computers.
No, I mean, of course.
Although that said, when I did the work experience when I was 16, not every desk did have a computer.
So you just sit on your
Yeah,
diary or something?
I mean, I think there was, almost every desk had a computer. But I mean, I know a lot of people listening to this will go, I can't believe what I'm listening to. But the rise of technology has been absolutely remarkable. That gave me an amazing technical grounding.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I see the grads they're in so much of a hurry. They're in so much of a hurry for this and that and more opportunities and client exposure and this, and I'm all for it, but you have to have that technical grounding. And whilst it was a little bit boring at the time, it gave me a phenomenal foundation, which has stood me in good stead for.
Maybe as students, when we join the corporate world, it's a little intimidating at first, right? You think, I remember when I joined Willis Towers Watson, it was amazing because I had great mentors and the work was amazing, but I still felt intimidated as to, I'm sure we all have felt that we need to perform, we need to prove ourselves, we need to make sure people know that, we are good at this and we'll do this. So there's that hunger to prove yourself. But in the process, like you said, we kind of miss the basics. So do you think in your career you made any mistakes which you'd like to go back and change?
No, I've never made a single mistake. What can I say, Darshika?
I would have never expected anything less.
No, I think if there's one thing I'm sort of happy about with my career, it would be that I've tried a lot of different things and kept myself interested and challenged. So yes, made plenty of mistakes along the way, but so has everyone. And I've always been blessed with really good bosses or line managers.
I think that really helps.
It's really helped. People that you can always go to for. Even now, we were looking at something yesterday, and I said, "Oh, we need to ask. We should chat this through with someone." And I think probably who I'm talking about. We need to chat this through because actually I'd welcome an opinion on that, and it from someone with even more experience than myself.
What would you say is something that you're most proud of or the biggest milestone for you?
So there's probably been a few landmarks in my career. So qualification is one. First client meeting. First time I went to a client meeting as the sort of the senior person, and then I can't just rely on the person with me here. I've got to lead this. That was a big moment. I remember that particular meeting. I don't think I slept for about 3 days before the meeting. What else? Yeah, changing from pensions to the world of insurance. That was the big one. That was the best thing I ever did. Nothing against pensions. I was ready for a change at the time, and so that for me was a big milestone. But there's also well, I work in a consultancy, so this won't be applicable to everyone. But the first time I sold a big project, on my own, or not on my, sort of leading it, or delivered a big project. Always big milestones. Anytime you're outside of your comfort zone, that's how you learn. You learn by being outside of your comfort zone. You want to get it right, but once you get it right, the self-belief, the growth and self-belief that you feel is a great thing, and then you kind of realize why. I want to keep doing this. I want to keep growing. And also helping others. I think there's probably, I can't pinpoint it, there was probably a moment in my career where I realised actually I have something to give to others as well.
Have there been times where you felt like you don't know something? And when you are in a high pressure situation, let's say you are at a really high stake client meeting or a situation where you don't know the answer, how do you deal with situations like that?
You have to tell the truth. So, I mean, we are, the actuarial profession is held in such high esteem, and it's such a badge of honour, that you need to protect. I sound like I'm reading from the Actuaries code here, but it's absolutely right. You need to protect the integrity of the profession and also your personal integrity. So I would never try and, BS. My way out of it.
Let's put that on a t-shirt.
You can kind of say, look, I'm not actually sure about this, so let me get back to you afterwards. Or I don't know what I can think about similar situations where this, may help. But yes, I think clients welcome transparency and honesty. And if you say, do you know what, actually, I'm not sure about the answer to this. Do you mind if I get back to you afterwards? Or, we've also had, I remember the night before a client meeting, and actually you do a final review, and then you spot something and you go, this isn't right. You just do the right thing, postpone the meeting.
Yeah.
The client, I've had a couple of situations like that. The client hasn't been happy, but they appreciate honesty and integrity. Do you know what, we've spotted something, we need a few extra days. I think it's just so important.
I want to also now go into pensions versus GI, right? Mm-hmm. Why did you feel like you would want to move? Question A. And question B, are there particular skill sets that are required, or as actuaries we can mold ourselves into different areas? And now actuaries are in banking and whatnot. So is it that some actuaries like certain areas and you just go pursue it? Or is it that you need to have a certain skill set to be pursuing a certain field?
So to your point, there are actuaries everywhere these days, very broad. Yeah, you've got insurance, but then you've got life insurance, non-life insurance, pensions, investment. You've got sort of your more data scientists types. You've got those working in consultancy, those working in an insurance company. There is a role for everyone, and I think that's why I would say try and experience as many different things as possible. I think I realised quite quickly in my career that I am best suited to a consultancy environment, client facing and that kind of thing. I've done it for 8 years at the time, and I'm going back to 2008 now. Pension schemes were closing all the time, defined benefit pension schemes. There was a financial crisis, 2008. Became insolvent, and I was working at Lloyds Bank when we took over HBOS. Oh, okay. So it was a really interesting time. But pension schemes were closing, and I was thinking about, well, I need a career here for the next 40 years. And I made a very risk-averse decision, which is quite natural for an actuary, and I am risk-averse. I just thought I'm not. I need something that's going to be a career here for the next 40 years. And I wasn't sure about pensions at the time. I think as it turns out, I was probably a little bit premature. Mm-hmm. And actually, you look at the world of pensions now; it's going great guns. Not just the continuation of DB pension schemes, but there's so much work involved in the de-risking and stuff. So I needn't have had those concerns, but that's not the only reason I did it. I was curious about insurance at the time. And I say insurance, I don't really work in insurance, I work in risk. Yeah. Because I'm in the risk and the corporate risk part of the business. So we are advising corporates rather than insurance companies, which means we're not dealing with actuaries all the time. We're dealing with individuals, finance directors and risk managers, and we're dealing with all sorts of different types of corporate risk. And it is, I'm dealing with risk rather than insurance, and it is, for me, it's absolutely fascinating, and it's the right home for me. Yeah. And I tried a few places before I got here, and I think that's what people should do. Yeah. Try a few different things, and then eventually you'll find something that suits you.
Yeah. I think that's so inspiring as well, because we always feel like, okay, this is what I've spent 3 years in, 5 years in, 8 years in, now I can't move. But it's just inspiring to know that if you're curious, if you're consistent, you just take that leap of faith and you go with what you are really interested in.
It was not easy 8 years into my career to switch from pensions to insurance. It's different types of risk, different types of modelling. So you do need to maintain that all-round knowledge to make sure you don't go too far down one line, I think. And you need an open-minded employer. Yeah. Right, and that covers a range of things from mortality risk, life insurance risk, pensions risk, through to insurance risk. And I think if you think about it in those terms, then that should enable you to be quite well-rounded.
Yeah. First of all, for our viewers, what is a broking firm? So let's start with that. What is a broking firm? What does a broker do in an insurance transaction when you have an insurance provider and a party who would like to be insured?
Okay, yeah. So an insurance broker they sit in between the corporate, the buyer of insurance, and between the insurance company, which is the seller of insurance. The broker's job is typically to help the client get the right program or buy the right coverage, get the right price, make sure they're buying enough insurance. If you think about this, is not corporate insurance is not the kind of thing you can just buy on, comparethemarket.com. These are very bespoke insurances, and typically, it's the company needs more insurance than one insurer can provide. So that's typically they'll need to buy insurance from a number of companies, and that's where the broker sits in the middle and coordinates the purchasing and deals with all the insurance companies on the behalf of the clients.
Now, most actuaries in the market work with insurance companies, either in the insurance company as part of their actuarial team, or most consultancies also provide services to insurance companies. So you're most often than not representing the insurance company and building their models and their reserving and solvency and things like that. But broking is a unique side where actuaries actually work for the insured party. So do you think you enjoy that part of the process more than working for an insurance company?
Personally, yes. I mean, I refer back to my earlier question where I said, I moved around until I found something that I really liked, and I see myself as a client-facing kind of actuary. Yes, I enjoy this because, not because I'm not dealing with actuaries. I love dealing with actuaries, but I love that I'm dealing with corporate risks and dealing with corporate buyers. So just the variety for me is the best bit about it. 1 minute I'm dealing with an airline from Mexico, and the next minute you're dealing with a UK supermarket, and 1 minute I'm dealing with cyber insurance, the next minute property or employer's liability, and it's that variety. And 1 minute you're looking at pricing, the next minute you're helping them with some reserving. So it's that variety. In the type of work, the type of risk, the type of client, all very savvy. We're dealing with CFOs, CEOs, and in some cases we have great exposure to these people who have real influence at the top of their companies. So for me, I love it. It's just it's exciting.
So as actuaries, and especially consulting actuaries, we know how busy it can get, right? With multiple clients, and we always want to deliver the best, and it's high pressure. How do you juggle work and personal life? Sometimes when you're spending hours and hours at work and you really need to draw a boundary sometimes. But again, you have the onus, you have the responsibility, so you don't really want to underdeliver. So what's the key for you to manage your work and personal life?
So it's a great question. I was hoping you'd ask this. So I have 2 small children now. They're 7 and 4, and so the reality is they draw the boundary. When it gets to 5:30 and they're sort of shouting downstairs, or I have to take them to school and I can't make a meeting before 9 o'clock. That's the boundary. It's kind of forced on me. This new way of working that we all have, and I know it's different from company to company, has helped me out a lot. I think we trust people to get their job done. Personally, I will finish work a bit earlier. I won't work much beyond 5 because I want to spend a couple of hours with the kids. But then if I need to do a bit more later on, finish some reports or have that, I quite like that quiet time in the evening. But that's where I can do my peer reviews.
When no one's
messaging, hopefully not. I'll do it. I might save my peer review reports until that time, for example. So it works for me. Periods of your life where you can invest more in work than others. And I think I've learned this as I get older, is you can't, or maybe some people can, but you can't always be in growth mode. There might be periods of your life where you just, do you know what, I'm kind of happy where I am. For the minute, I'm happy just to stay at this level for a couple of years. I've got, kids, I've got other hobbies I like to do. I don't always need to be aggressively growing and putting, 150% into work. There will also, there will be periods of time where you just have to allow yourself a bit of breathing room. As long as you're meeting your objectives and stuff, I think that's also absolutely fine. It's, at the end of the day, it's your career. Make the most of it make the most of it as you would like to. Not everyone has to work crazy hours and become the CEO of this and that. Some people are very happy with nice comfortable careers, and I think that's absolutely fine as well.
That's the culture I remember being with when I was working for you as well, that it's crazy number of hours is not equal to you progressing in your career. You can do great work if you manage your time well in that 9 to 5. If you kind of really get focused and consistent, you can deliver good work and still be aggressive in your career with those boundaries. But I think something that we all struggle with, and I've spoken to my friends about it, not just actuaries, the art of saying no.
Mm-hmm.
When someone
what does that mean?
When someone really senior comes to you and says, hey, can you do this for me? It's so hard to say no, even when you're swamped with so much work. You find it really hard to say no.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that, and how did you achieve that in your career as you progressed through?
So the ability, I'll come back to the point around communication being key. Now it may be that you feel in that situation you can't say no to that person. If it's like this, you use the word super boss. If the super boss comes to you and says, I need you to do this afternoon, forget everything else, do this. And you might kind of go, yes, and then go, I don't know how I'm going to do this. This is where you need to speak to your line manager. And just say, look, I've had this put on me, I can do it, but it means something else has to slip. Can you help me prioritize this? And you have to communicate. Because if you just say yes, and then you do that, but then you fail to deliver on your other deadline, then you're going to annoy someone else.
Yeah.
So people generally will be very understanding. Yeah. Communication is key. The word, one thing that gets my goat is when people sort of, they'll send you something at, just before they log off, and they say, oh, by the way, I'm out of office next week. I'm like, oh, so why I wish you just told me. Yeah. Because we could have had a call about it. Yeah. So communication is not just about yourself; it's about your team members and making sure that you plan things as a team as well. But being able to prioritize and communicate is key. And I think you made a very savvy comment is working extreme hours does not necessarily correlate with being fantastic at your job. And some of the best people I've worked in don't work crazy hours at all. Mm-hmm. But what they do is they work smarter rather than working harder. They communicate well, they prioritize, and I think that is key.
What do you like to do on your weekends and apart from work? And I know you have wonderful kids. I've seen their photos and they are so adorable. But yeah, what do you like to do?
What do I like to do? So anything with a ball. Golf, football.
Oh, you play football as well?
I used to. I mean, I'm not so much anymore. The knees are getting a bit tired for that. Tennis, for example. I love sports. Playing, watching, but yeah, mainly I don't have so much time for it at the minute. It tends to be taxi driver for the kids at the minute. Take one of them to dance and one of them to football and so on. But I love being outside.
Yeah.
So just get outside, get some fresh air, and cook some nice food and all of that. I like reading as well. So.
Yeah, the summer is coming, so I'm sure you.
Summer's coming finally.
Finally, I think this was a long-awaited summer. I think we're coming towards the end of our discussion. I think this has been so insightful. And in our podcast, for all our listeners and our watchers, we're asking every guest to give one advice which they wish they had gotten way sooner. So any particular advice that you'd want to give to the aspiring actuaries working in the industry that you wish someone told you early in your career?
I need to
no pressure. No pressure.
Yeah. One piece of advice: it's your career. Take control of it. Mm-hmm. And if that means changing jobs to find something that interests you, if it means finding something that suits your work-life balance better, if it means finding something that gives you more exposure to clients or technical skills, then do it. You have one career. Enjoy it, because we spend 2/3 of our waking life at work,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
Well, that assumes you're awake for 12 hours a day. That doesn't. It's okay. So 50% of our working life, let's say, our waking life. You have to enjoy your career, but also your career isn't everything. You have to fill your time outside of work as well, and just try and be as rounded as possible.
Yeah. I think that's something I completely agree with. I think the times when I'm doing more things outside of work, I'm actually way more productive at work because I feel more excited, more energized. So yeah, that's so inspiring. And
Can I add one more?
Yeah, of course.
Having said take control of your career, don't worry about it. It's a long career. Don't think, gosh, I'm 24, I'm 25. I'm in a job, this has to be the job for the next, 40 years. Don't stress it. It's a long career. As long as you keep your skills up to date, you'll have opportunities to do different things. So just relax and enjoy.
Yeah, it's about enjoying the process as well. So, no, that's wonderful. And thank you so much for the incredible insights and being so honest and transparent. To all our listeners, thank you for joining us and thank you for listening to us.
If you like this podcast, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel.